Good afternoon, chairpersons and dear colleagues. So we are making a house. Dr. Kale set the lay stone. I think the has been made, and you made all walls. But where I have to make the roof, and that is the most important part of, if at all, making a house. So I am really thankful to Dr. Bansi for this physical, after 2 years, meeting a strategy for CV risk reduction in type 2 diabetes. Just in the presidential oration, our President, Dr. Bansi, told the very alarming situation of the diabetes and its complications. So I will not repeat it. But my scope of 20 minutes, this lecture will be like this. And as you see here, in the peak, this is of last evening, when Dr. Bansi arranged a very traditional way of life management. I will say that how we are enjoyed yesterday, so really thankful. But I just am showing you that this is giving a message to return to the traditional things. That is very, very important. Because you are trying to measure an unmeasurable thing. You do everything, smoking control, lipids control, everything control, still there is residual risk reduction remains, and that is in tune of 40 to 30%. And that is a huge problem. And as you see here, if even the IFG and IGT increases the risk of CV disease by 18% and 20% respectively, so this is the huge problem at all. But still, we have to target to prevent CV risk by managing or by controlling the dyslipidemia, hypertension, smoking, family history of premature coronary disease, be alert and see the presence of albuminuria, and control the obesity, and also the presence of hyperuricemia, which has been widely linked with the CV events. You know well now that how it is important, how it is the diabetes is increasing all these CBDs. At this juncture of time in 2021, when the concept of the glucocentric approach is weakening, while tight glycemic control is the backbone of diabetes, management recent trials have focused on the cardiovascular risk reduction as the primary objective. So we find a contemporary shift in the recommended strategy which extends beyond glycemic control. But we must not forget that there are compelling and established data which support the benefit of long-term glycemic control in reducing the risk of microvascular complications, and also the importance of legacy effect is quite clear. The one part of the story is this. The second part is that we have got the excellent CVOTs, and they are demonstrating the mind-boggling benefits in the CV reduction. So you have to be aware also, even for the CV risk reduction, when to choose SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP-1 RH. We have got many studies which giving insight from studies, risk reduction is possible or not. But for ideal health, the ideal health behavior is a very, very important issue. And as I told you, the LD oxidation triggers, that is a very, very important issue in our diabetic patients. LDL oxidation leading to foam cell formation, monocyte motility, endothelial dysfunction, chemo attraction, free radical production, and plaque instability. So these things are very important. And even you know that even a single taken junk food that can lead to the vascular event. Single. People say कि एक बार खा लिया तो क्या होगा? But a study is there, research is there that this can do the worst thing. So how to screen such persons? The ADA 2021 says that in asymptomatic patients, routine screening for coronary artery disease is not recommended, and it does not improve outcomes as long as atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease risk factors are treated. So message is very quiet and loud, and this is a level of evidence of A. But you consider investigation for the CAD. If a patient is coming with the atypical cardiac symptoms, this is a day-to-day practice, that people are coming with unexplained dyspnea, chest discomfort, signs of associated vascular disease, some TIH history, stroke, claudication, PAD features, and ECG abnormal, be very alert to pick up such cases. And so we have got the European Society of Cardiology guidelines very recently released, and this you have to then pick up your case as a high risk category, moderate risk category, or it is in very high risk category. How you will do that? You see here for the very high risk, there is a patient of diabetes. Either he has got already established this CVD, or suppose there is not established SVD, then see the TOD, the target organ damage, by three things or four things. Suppose a patient is having eGFR less than 45, and there is no albuminuria, take it as a very high risk. You take a proteinuria more than 300, and eGFR, if it is 45 to 59, with microalbuminuria, so presence of microvascular disease also going on like three different sites. That is, microalbuminuria plus retinopathy plus neuropathy, label this as very high risk, and such cases you must tackle very, very carefully. Now, as Dr. Arvinda was talking about these calculators, the lifetime CVD risk and treatment benefit estimation, remember that prevention of CVD by treating risk factor is usually done with a lifetime perspective. This is true. But this can be approximated by clinical experience with clinical criteria also, and that works in our clinical practice. Online calculators, you can use it, but see here the story. The different associations say to use different type of calculators. Like this is from the ADA. They take the ESVD risk estimator plus, but it must be appreciated that none of the risk calculators are perfect. So to select appropriate therapeutic goals and interventions, the importance of clinical judgment and consideration of cardiovascular risk factors cannot be overemphasized. So this is the message again. So you can go for this site, that is you prevent me, you prevent me, and you can get all the calculators at one place. But European Society of Cardiology uses a score 2. But they did comment that if country-specific calculators should be used, you see here that for South Indian, if you are using this score of European Society calculator, they say that multiply the risk by 1.3 for Indians, as there is some peculiarity of the CVD in Indians. And one study I found where they say that the Framingham risk score, global CVD risk assessment, is much better than this Q risk or JBS3, which performed only intermediately. And our Indian study says that ACC and AHA risk score calculators could not identify they can only identify least number of patients. So again, there is lots of dilemma here. But RSSDI guidelines updated again mentions about the Q risk 3. And so we have to take different society guidelines, that is important. But our RSSDI says that persons with diabetes with severe TOD can be considered to be at very high CVD risk, and most others with DM are considered to be high atherosclerotic cardiovascular risk. With that, now let us proceed what to do, how to protect our patients. Regarding all these things have been told, the coronary artery calcium, the contrast computer tomography, angiography, IMT already discussed. But be very careful if your diabetic patients complaining with migraine, periodontal disease, HIV, some rheumatoid arthritis, as you see here, that even a history of migraine, a 2-fold increased risk of ischemic stroke and 1.5-fold increase in risk of cardiac ischemic disease can occur. So these are very important, like ischemic stroke is high risk for future MI, CKD, AF, NAFLD, erectile dysfunctions, and OSA and COAD. So these things are very, very to alert you what to do. Then you define your treatment goals, and basically what you can do in our clinical practice. Number one is diet. And what is the message from the diet? Miracle of diet. You take from the very new analysis, recent study from the Pure study, that glycemic index is the key measure of dietary health. And people with a diet in highest quintile of the glycemic index had a significant 25% higher risk of combined total death and major CVD. And Predimate study is showing that if you follow a Mediterranean type of diet, there is 30% reduction in risk of cardiovascular events can occur. And in the pre-specified diabetic subgroup of this trial, 29% of reduction in the primary 3-point composite outcomes. But most of time in our clinical practice, we do not say to our patients, we do not teach our patients, do not educate our patients regarding those things. Although these guidelines from the RSSD, IESI recommendations are there. So this is, I think, they have given the European Society of Cardiology very nutshell the recommendations that adopt a Mediterranean or similar diet to lower risk of CVD, restrict alcohol consumption to a maximum of 100 grams per week, eat fish more, preferably fatty, at least once a week, restrict the processed meat, and so smoking cessation. So this is, I think, very, you can think, and regarding alcohol, I already told you. So on average, if you are taking a 2% increase in energy intake by pizza and fast food culture, and taking more and more trans fatty acid, it is associated with 23% higher CHD risk. And these are the things which needs a very, very big intervention. And we never tell our patients regarding these things. If you are taking a 7 gram per day fiber, it is associated with a 9% lower risk of CAD. And if it is meta-analysis shows that even the do a salt restriction of 2.5 gram per day, there is 25 reduction in the atherosclerotic cardiovascular events. You take the nuts, and again it is showing a 36% reduction. And nuts, vegetables, and fish, all giving a very good result. And its most next intervention will be the demystifying the exercise. And you see, make your mitochondria green. This is my message to my patients. I show this chart. You want to be in the upper part where this is yellow, red, or you want here the green one. Remember, the very latest study has shown that there is nothing but the only concept should be brought, that is the exercise-induced mitophagy, very important. A gradient difference in the mitochondrial color from the green, yellow to red represents what? Healthy, stress, and damaged or dysfunctional mitochondria, and this is the key to manage diabetes, key to manage CVD. Remember, ये science को जब patient को बताएंगे, then they will understand. There was one patient not walking at all, even after repeated consultations. Then I showed this chart, showed this figure. उसके दिमाग में गया कि मेरा mitochondria green होना चाहिए. He has started walking and continuing it. So lots of science you have to deal with your patients. We have to tell your patient कि लिखो अगर aerobic and resistance exercise, if you are combining both, insulin sensitivity is increasing by 70% and lowering the HbA1c level 0.9%. This is mind-boggling, but we are not educating our patients. In the same way, it is the Ramban of the NALFD. And this guidelines, you just do a 150 or 300 minute walk per week, that is not sufficient for our Indian patients. Simple thing is कि 1 घंटा खूब तेज लगातार पैदल चलो. Finished. This is the most important intervention we can do. Then the second thing is about your confusion in antihypertensive therapy. This is quite clear today that the tight control of blood pressure decreases the risk of microvascular complications. So you go for it. And for that, I think the ADA has given the beautiful this diagram. How to initiate and when to choose the ACE inhibitors, ARB, when there are compelling indications to use ACE inhibitors and ARBs, not other drugs. So you go and see this. I have already, you know it. I will not go in detail for that. But this point is quite clear from this cardiovascular disease and risk management standard of medical care in diabetes, available on the site. Do read it, and this says that treatment for hypertension should include drug classes demonstrated to reduce cardiovascular events in patients with diabetes, and it is level A classic level of evidence. Either you give 1 pill, you give 2 pills, and rather your patient is resistant hypertension, we have now clear guidelines. Next confusion in your mind is regarding the lipids. You know the moderate intensity statin, high intensity statin, PCSK9 inhibitors also emerging in some cases, and also combining these drugs with a statin, with the PCSK9 and with ezetimibe. So lots of things are coming up, but I'm not going detail. But I think just remember this one, I think here, that for primary prevention recommendations, what is the update now? Obtain a lipid profile at initiation of statins or other lipid-lowering therapy 4 to 12 weeks after initiation, or a change in dose, and annually thereafter. It is quite clear that for patients with diabetes patients have 40 to 75 years, and there is no atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, you have to use moderate intensity statin therapy in addition of the lifestyle therapy, that is level A indication is there. And for patients with diabetes having age between 20 to 39 age, with additional atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease risk factors, it may be reasonable to initiate a statin therapy in addition to the lifestyle therapy. So there is not at all any confusion here. This is quite clear here. And so in patients with diabetes, you have to proceed like this. And for secondary prevention, you are quite happy that for patients with all ages, with diabetes and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, you will start with the high-intensity statin therapy, and it should be added to lifestyle therapy. For patients with diabetes and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, considered very high risk using a specific criteria. If the LDL cholesterol is more than 70 or maximally tolerated statin dose, then you must consider adding ezetimibe or even PCSK9 inhibitors if possible. Ezetimibe may be preferred due to a lower cost. For patients who do not tolerate the intended intensity, then maximally tolerated dose you should give. And if the adults with diabetes, aged more than 75 years, already on a statin therapy, it is reasonable to continue the statin therapy. Also, these things are quite clear, and there is no, so this gives chart of the ESC gives the whole things quite clear. Now the triglyceride is a big issue also. If you are getting more than 500, do evaluate for the secondary causes. For 175 and 499, again do the things for the secondary evaluation, and for atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease or other cardiovascular risk factors on a statin with controlled LDL cholesterol but elevated TG, the addition of even the omega fatty acid is now has been found very important, level A indication you can see. But what happens, a statin, if you are adding with the fibrate, combination therapy has not been shown to improve the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease outcomes and generally not recommended. And a statin plus niacin combination therapy has not been shown to provide additional cardiovascular benefit even at the level of A. Then suppose a patient is on diabetes or pre-diabetes and you want to use a statin, what is the status of diabetic risk with the statin? So one of the initial studies suggested the statin use was associated with diabetes risk. The cardiovascular events rate reduction with the statins far outweighed the risk of incident diabetes even for patients at higher risk for diabetes. So you see this, and lipid-lowering agents and cognitive function as far as is concerned, it is not currently supported by any evidence. Next point is to start the antiplatelets. I think the ADA recommendation is crystal clear. Use aspirin therapy as a secondary preventive strategy in those with diabetes with a history of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, no doubt about it. If there is aspirin allergy, start clopidogrel. And dual platelet therapy is reasonable for a year after an acute coronary event. Or long-term treatment with dual antiplatelet therapy should be considered for patients with prior coronary intervention, high ischemic risk, and low bleeding risk to prevent major adverse cardiovascular events. And combination therapy with aspirin plus now this very popular drug low-dose rivaroxaban should be considered for patients with a stable coronary and peripheral artery disease and low bleeding risk to prevent major adverse limb and cardiovascular events. But as far as the primary prevention is concerned, aspirin therapy may be considered in those with diabetes who are at increased cardiovascular risk after a comprehensive discussion with the patient on the benefit versus the comparable increased risk of bleeding. So this is what is the status at present. I think the most contemporary primary prevention trials reported no or little benefits in patients without atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and consistent increase in bleeding. So an updated meta-analysis didn't show a reduction in all-cause CV mortality, so lots of debate is there. But for primary prevention, I think the three trials are very important: anti-thrombotic trialist, ASCEND, and ARRIVE. And the message is that some found the benefit, some didn't found the benefit. So I think for primary prevention, I have made the things clear. Now, if there is a patient is having PAD, Dr. Arvinda was talking about the ankle brachial index. Here, the role of, I think, Rivaroxaban vaccine is very much fastly emerging, because in patients with diabetes and chronic symptomatic lower extremity arterial disease is coming, and without high bleeding risk, then they say to combine a low dose Rivaroxaban 2.5 milligram BD and aspirin 100 milligram OD, this should be considered. So lastly, the role of the SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP-1 in reduction of the type 2 risk, CVD risk. ये चमत्कार को नमस्कार है कि shift from cardiovascular safety to cardiorenal benefit of oral hypoglycemic agents, we are in the era of this era. So what is the status? As you know, this is a CVD leading cause, and it appears reasonable to use both SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP-1 with demonstrated CV benefit concomitantly if clinically indicated, even though such combination therapy has not been studied for CV risk reduction. But the GLP-1 with demonstrated CV benefit is recommended for patients with established or very high risk of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease or other things you know, but we are slowly moving towards era for the primary prevention, and days are not far behind when all guidelines will tell when you choosing an anti-diabetic drug, from the very beginning of the diagnosis of the type 2 diabetes, you start an SGLT2 inhibitors. I just predict it will happen in next few years. So my final takeaways are that when we have a patient with diabetes, part of risk factor management is of course glucose control, but we want patients to know what their hemoglobin HbA1c is. But for microvascular disease, it is more important to manage other risk factors like LDL levels, very low, optimizing your blood pressure, optimizing your body weight, exercising, and avoiding tobacco products. And patients with diabetes have, as you know, a rapid platelet turnover also. They tend to have more platelet activation, and so in patients with diabetes and atherosclerotic vascular disease, patients are recommended to receive a single antiplatelet agent, generally aspirin, as and when needed. So we have now excellent guidelines. This is from the ACE. The things are same. How to start with all lifestyle therapy. You can how to control this dyslipidemia. These are all from the ACE guidelines. So ultimately, I say that the unique mantra is A, B, C, D, E. You control HbA1c, blood pressure, cholesterol, diet, and exercise. These 5 things are sufficient to tackle most of our CV risk reduction strategy. So adherence to treatment, a healthy diet, a lifestyle modification are important to lower lipid levels and reduce CV risk. Believe it in. And patients with residual risk and hypertriglyceridemia, lifestyle modification plays a critical role in lowering CV risk. Appreciate it. And reducing CV risk requires a multifactorial risk reduction strategy, and there is a growing armamentarium of novel and emerging agents of the CV space. It happens as I showed you. And a team-based approach is very much needed. A multifactorial risk reduction strategy are the keys to successful lipid management are to tackle. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dr. Singh, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was a very passionate lecture, I think. And I would now request Dr.
Wonderful presentation, sir. By explaining lipid katha, chamatkar ko namaskar in a very easy manner and wonderful. No words. Thank you. I would like to request my co-chairman to felicitate Dr. Singh.